Welcome to the Golf Report podcast. I'm joined by Katherine Muzi, a professional golfer, going to be playing on the Epson Tour this year, and Katherine played last year on the Ladies European Tour. Katherine, how are things going? How were your holidays?
Hi, thank you for having me here. My holidays were pretty cool. I spent time with my dad in California, went to Vegas with my best friend for a couple days to celebrate New Year's, and then now I'm back in Cali. I'm in Tustin, California right now, just prepping for the next season.
Yeah. So you played, 2024 on the Ladies European Tour. So just how long have you been back in California since playing, last year on the LET?
Yeah, the European tour was a really good experience for me.
Mhm.
I did the Q school in 2022 or 2023 of last year. And it was very it was a tournament experience where I was able to figure out what worked on the road. I went to like at least 10 different countries,
Mhm.
and like the whole experience was kind of like figuring out what works, uh flying like 10 to 12 hours, staying in a hotel. Like I think the travel part was kind of like the most challenging thing. It was definitely a big transition from college, but I definitely learned a lot from it.
Yeah. So you're in the off season right now, getting ready for the upcoming Epson Tour season, which you recently got status for, which we'll talk about. But how's your off season going? What are some things you're working on, with your game during this off season?
Yeah, off season's been going well. After I played in the LPGA Stage 2 in Venice, so I missed by like three. I had a good chance, but I think my like short game and putting kind of let me down.
Okay.
So I think dialing in my putting, short game, and wedging is kind of like a big thing that I'm trying to put in for next year, because that's a
Okay.
big portion of like scoring.
Yeah.
And in terms of like my game on the LET, I'm typically a pretty good ball striker, but my short game stats haven't really been like the greatest. So that's
Okay.
what I'm trying to like work towards for Epson.
Yeah. So just tell me more about your game. What are some of the strengths and weaknesses of your game? Just what are you currently working on? And yeah, just tell me more about your game.
Yeah, my strengths of my game are my ball striking
Okay.
and like course management.
Mhm.
I would say like weaknesses would be like wedging in certain areas. At least last year was putting. In college at USC, I used to be like a really good putter. So I'm trying to like get that back. It's kind of like I feel like I'm close, but then I just haven't really found like a spot where it's like, okay, that's the putting that I had before. So I'm just trying to like put everything together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the off season right now, tell me how much do you play in practice versus, an off week during the season? Because obviously, you play a lot, when you're in a tournament week in season. But tell me about, how much right now in the off season do you play in practice?
I'm still trying to figure out like what ideally works on the road for like 3 to 4 weeks in a row, because I think last year was my first like full year on like a tour.
Mhm.
So I think in terms of like off-season practice, it's definitely more gym work, uh,
Okay.
more like practice on technique. So
Mhm.
I go to this coach called David Whalen
Okay.
in Florida. So I live in like Bradenton, Lakewood Ranch area, which is like an hour from Tampa.
Okay.
So I've been going to this coach who worked at IMG, and he brought
Mhm.
up Paula Creamer, Jessica Corda, and Nelly.
Mhm.
And he's been like working with Nelly in concession, which is like 10 minutes or so from our house.
Okay.
But I started going to him like 2 years ago, and he really like helped my game. I think a big part was like working on my pitching technique, and it just felt like to get like the whole ball striking thing down, it was kind of like one simple technique that started out with like pitching. So
Yeah.
I've just been trying to like master that. But it's still like there's certain things where I still have like a good amount of work to do, but I still have time for like the 2025 season.
Yeah. So do you live in Florida? You're currently in California. I know you're from California, which we'll talk about next. But do you live in Florida?
Yeah, I live in Florida.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I moved right after my year at South Carolina. So I think like I moved in June of 2023.
Yeah.
So I've been there for like over a year now. I really
Okay.
like it in Florida. My
Hmm.
dad is still in like Orange County in
Okay.
California, but in terms of like golf facility, it's a lot more convenient in Florida because
Hmm.
like in California, it's like really expensive to go on the driving range. Like
Okay.
it's really expensive where we live in Orange County to join a private club because of like there's Newport Beach nearby. So all the initiation fees are really high. And like what's good in Florida is that our course, there were three golf courses. So but now the organization bought out another course, and now there's four courses, and there's like three different clubhouses with like each one has a practice facility. So it's like a big deal compared to like in California where there's usually only one course. It's usually pretty busy
Hmm.
compared to having like three to four courses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about, the course or courses that you play in Florida, and tell me about some of the courses you played in growing up in California.
Yeah. In Florida, I play at a club called Lakewood Ranch Country Club.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's where I mainly like do all my practice.
Hmm.
And I grew up in Walnut, California,
Hmm.
which is like in LA County, close to Diamond Bar. It's like 40 minutes east of LA. But yeah, I grew up there, went to high school, and then I think my second year of college at USC, my mom moved to Orange County. She moved to Newport Beach. My dad was living in Tustin, I think, like since I started college. And then my mom sold the house and moved to Florida, so I just lived with her. But my dad is still like in California, so I just come to visit him like whenever I'm here.
Nice. So
Yeah.
you mentioned you grew up in Walnut, California, in the LA area. So just tell me about growing up in California, and how you got started playing golf.
Yeah, so I started playing golf when I was 8.
Okay.
I think I was in like third grade. I did some other sports like I think figure skating, ballet. I did softball, tennis, and swimming.
Mhm.
But like I think it was something when I played golf. So the summer before I started golf, I got like injured in like a mountain bike thing where I was like dumb and I tripped on a route. So I
Oh,
like
geez.
sprained my ankle or something, but I was like kind of playing tennis then. But then like after that injury for some reason, like probably like September, October, I picked up golf and then I felt like I had a natural swing. Like my parents definitely felt like I was better at that than some of the other sports I tried. Like figure skating, I was like a penguin on ice.
Mhm.
Like softball's like so-so. Like maybe tennis if I like put more work into it. I never really tried tennis.
Okay.
But golf just had I had like a natural like it was more like, whoa, like she can swing.
Yeah.
So that's
And
why I just picked up
mhm.
golf.
Yeah. And what, initially appealed to you about golf?
I really liked golf
Mhm.
because it was definitely more of like a sport where there's not that much physical activity. Like tennis, I would be exhausted just running around the court in
Oh,
the warm
geez.
up. Even
Hmm.
before the whole game started, I like golf because it just felt more relaxed. I liked
Yeah.
it how it was like an individual sport, how it was just like you and the ball
Yeah.
compared to like being on a team sport with other players. Um, I really like the challenge of golf, how there's like four different categories, like driving, iron game, short game, and putting. It just felt really like fun.
Hmm.
So there was like so much stuff that I could practice.
Yeah.
It just really appealed to me. So I started competitions when I was maybe 9 and worked my
Okay.
way to like from the JDL on the SCPGA Junior League, which was like the golf tour for juniors then. So I played in like the 9 to 11, 12 to 14, and then moved into like Toyota Tour Cup to try to like get stars for AJGA. And then
Mhm.
eventually I just played AJGA after.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
both started at age 8, but you've certainly had, a lot more success
Oh,
than I've had
nice.
in my golf career. But anyway, you were talking about, like tennis, you got exhausted from that. But in golf, especially like in college, you have some days where you play 36 holes. So, just how do you deal with, like when you have a 36 hole day, just how do you deal with that? And, do you get too tired, after 36, or how does that, work for you?
Yeah, I feel like 36, I really have to like make sure I eat well the night before. A
Okay.
lot of times in like tournaments, if I like don't really fully like eat a good dinner or like sometimes if I'm like nervous about something, I don't really eat. But if it comes to like a big event or 36 holes especially, I really have to make sure I eat enough.
Hmm.
Like pack a lot of electrolytes, like beef jerky, a lot of snacks to make sure I'm eating because it's really easy to
Okay.
get tired.
Yeah.
But I think like sometimes like if I have like a fun group I'm playing with, it makes it more enjoyable to like talk to the people I'm playing with.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I think yeah, that really makes a big difference.
Hmm. So on the topic of food, what are some of your favorite foods and what do you like eating or what helps you the best? What do you like eating like the day before a big tournament? Like let's say you're going to play 36 holes, like what do you like eating like the
Yeah.
night before?
I feel like I used to really like eating pasta.
Yeah.
Like Italian food was probably like my favorite thing to eat.
Hmm.
So I think I probably like that was probably my go-to.
Yeah.
Like for probably most of growing up in high school, middle school, and then college. But like recently I got like a gluten intolerance and like
Oh,
a
geez.
lactose intolerance. So it's kind of like more troubling to figure out what to eat.
Yeah.
So I think like because my stomach has trouble digesting certain foods.
Yeah.
So if I have like a cake or some kind of pastry or something, it's like kind of like not it, even pasta. So I think now I would get like gluten-free pasta or something instead.
Hmm.
Um, but I think like now I would, if I had 36 holes, like if I was prepping for a US Open qualifier,
Hmm.
I would probably just eat like gluten-free pasta with a
Okay.
salad or like some form of meat, like maybe salmon with like vegetables or like a steak with vegetables. Yeah.
Yeah. You were talking about snacking. Just, tell me about some of the snacks you usually have on the course, and do you think it's important, or do you like to, have food while you're on the course or not?
Yeah, I usually bring like a banana, an apple,
Okay.
beef jerky, nuts. And then like I like to bring boiled eggs. So that boiled eggs and beef jerky are my protein. And I usually like start with a banana and then mix and match like an apple with beef jerky or like do certain things and then go. I think the biggest part like with the European tour to like keep energized was
Hmm.
like if I'm on like 13 or 14, like I would be playing well and then I would randomly drop. So I really have to make sure I eat like every
Yeah.
couple holes because sometimes I forget to eat because I'm just so focused.
Yeah.
But like eating, especially in the last like 5, 6 holes, is really important
Yeah.
because of how long
Um,
rounds take.
yeah, and then final thing about food before we get back on track, but playing on the ladies European tour, traveling to many different countries throughout, last year. Did you try any new or different foods, being in many different countries? And if so, how was that?
So the thing about like traveling with like it's a business trip.
Yeah.
So like I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to Rome. I'm gonna go to like Switzerland or like Kenya or whatever. Like yes, like the destinations were like really, really spot on, like stunning places to visit. But because it was a business trip, like you really have to watch what you eat. So then I think when we went to Africa, we had to get like some type of like shots ahead of time and
Okay.
they like the doctors told us like hey like here's a picture of like stuff that you should eat and you shouldn't eat so
Okay.
they're like you shouldn't eat like salad or anything like not cooked like if you want to eat like maybe eat like something fully cooked like chicken you may want to watch out on like certain fruits because like if you get food poisoning or like your stomach is upset that could affect like performance so I
Sure.
think
Hmm.
like in terms of trying foods, I didn't really get to do that because it was a business trip. Like we're performing for golf money.
Yeah.
compared to like going on vacation. So like I think when we were in Morocco for like the European Tour Q school, there was like a mall and we went to like the same two or three restaurants like for the whole week. Like if
Okay.
we ate something and it was like, okay, we're not sick, we're gonna like come back and maybe order that same item for the tournament. Um, yeah, but I did try like a couple things like in South Africa during the tournament, I got like a stomach thing from eating fruit, which was kind of
Okay.
unfortunate.
Hmm.
Um, I had to take like some type of medicine and I had to go to the doctor like during my first round. It was like pretty bad.
Yeah.
I don't know what I ate, but like I tried ostrich and some type of like really cool fish in South Africa. So I did try like certain things, but that was like after the tournament. But I definitely wouldn't try something like really cool like the day before the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting back on track, you grew up in Walnut, California. You attended Walnut High School and you won three CIF championships. So just tell me about your time, attending Walnut High School and what was it like to win, three high school state titles?
Oh, it was definitely a blast. Like
Mhm.
our team back then was really solid. We had we probably had like 20 kids on the girls team,
Okay.
but like 10 players were really good. So then it was very much like who's going to be playing kind of. One of my teammates, two of them went to Princeton, one of them went to UPenn, one of them went to Denver, one of them went to Pepperdine. So you had like some big Division 1 schools that my teammates went to. So we were definitely stacked. In terms of like high school competitions, it was really fun. Like definitely a lot different than pro golf, but because each tournament was like one day, it was just like, let's see how good we can get as a team. Our coach, Cecil Woods, was really good. Um, he gave us like advice like GYMR, like get your mind right, or like roll
Mhm.
the rock, or like he would say certain things which would really motivate us. He was a good coach. I learned a lot from like playing with all the kids and the coach in high school.
Yeah. So you mentioned, having lots of players on your high school team. What would you say your high school was, a bigger high school in terms of, number of students and, your team was pretty good there. So was your school, generally good at athletics?
I feel like our school was like pretty good at athletics. Probably
Okay.
definitely not like an athletic school, like in
Mhm.
terms of a lot of students go there and play like Division 1 football or something. It was more like a selective, like there would be a couple like really good players from each sport who would get into Division 1 school. Um, but like our school is public. I think there were about like 500 kids in our class.
Okay.
So like yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah.
Like in
Well,
California, the schools, because there's no snow or anything, the schools are like outdoors, not like in the movies where it's like you're in one like building. It
mhm.
was kind of like an open like school with like different buildings where you would just walk outside to go to each class.
Yeah. Well, 500 students in your class, that's bigger than my entire high school that I grew up in
Really?
Phoenix. Yeah. I had about 100 in
Dang.
each grade, so like 400 in total.
Wow.
I went to a smaller high school. Anyway. So some of your success growing up, you played in, AJGA tournaments growing up as a junior. You won the 2018 Callaway Junior Golf Championship. So just tell me about, getting to grow up and play in AJGA tournaments, winning an AJGA tournament. And how, important or pivotal in your, growth in golf. What or was it playing, AJGA tournaments?
Oh yeah, playing AJJ was a really big deal for me.
Mhm.
Like that was something I was really trying to like work for since I played junior golf was
Mhm.
like to try to get into a good college. And then I knew that like if I did well in AJGA, I would have like a good chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only had one college win in AJGA, or not college win, but one junior win.
Okay.
Uh, like the first tournament I played, it was like in Michigan. I think I was like 12 and it was a junior all-star. So I had only 2 stars then. So that was like the only tournament that I got into at the time. And then I was in a playoff for first place, but lost. So I ended up getting second. I think in AJGA I got like 4 or 5 seconds. And then the one win like my final year. So that was a big deal to finally win as a junior.
Yeah.
Um, but it was definitely a ride. Um, I was playing a ton of like from going to junior all-stars to opens to the invitational level.
Yeah.
I was really like skinny back then, so I didn't hit it that far. So when it came to invitationals, I felt like I was playing it really long compared to the other ones, but it was definitely like a good experience, like in how I progressed throughout the years. It was a neat thing.
Yeah. You also played in the first, women's four-ball championship in 2015 at Bandon Dunes. So just tell me what was it like to get to play in, the inaugural U.S. women's four-ball?
Oh, that was really fun. I played with my high school teammate Patricia Wong. She ended up going to Pepperdine. So I was a freshman and she was a senior at the time. We made it. It was a great time. Like Bandon Dunes is one of the top courses in the US. And to be able to like play that with her, like my good friend, it
Yeah.
was definitely a good time.
Mhm. You've played in, a few, I believe, USGA championships. So what's it like to play in the USGA championships? I know I've talked to some people and they've said, those are some of the biggest and, best tournaments, in the entire country. So just, what was your experience like playing in a few USGA championships?
Yeah, I thought it was definitely fun. Like just to qualify, you have to have like a good 18-hole round. So
Yeah.
I made like 4, I'd say junior girls. I never qualified for the women's am. Just kind of had like trouble like finishing out a round, but the junior ones were definitely really fun. I
Mhm.
think when I had like some trouble because I would be really good at stroke play for a couple years and then I just couldn't win in the match play portion. Like I didn't
Okay.
know how to play match play. So that was kind of like a challenge when I did make it to match play. But I think like more in college I figured out like what I would need to do to win in match play.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like one thing that I had like that was a challenge when it came to like advancing further in the tournaments
Yeah.
because it was all match play based after you made the cut.
Mhm. So talk about, stroke play and match play. Do you have a different mindset, when you play stroke play versus when you play match play? And what do you prefer? Do you prefer playing stroke play or match play?
I feel like I would like now prefer match play
Hmm.
because it's definitely like less stressful because every shot doesn't like count for your score. So like if you make a 7 or an 8 or something, like you could just toss it out the window. But like in stroke play, you have to count every single shot that you
Yeah.
hit. So if you like mess up on one hole, it's like a bigger impact on your score.
Yeah.
So I definitely think match play is more freeing. But in terms of like what I realized, it took me like so many years to figure it out. But the difference for stroke play and match play, it's like your mindset has to be the same in match play as it is in stroke play. Like you're playing individually to shoot like your best score. But a lot of times I would be in like match play and I would play
Mhm.
against someone who maybe was a better seed than me or maybe was a worse seed than me. And then I would like think about like their overall accomplishments or whatever and get intimidated or kind of like mental stuff that would get in the way
Yeah.
instead of like just playing my own game and then forgetting how good or whatever their resume was that I'm playing against and just playing my
Hmm.
own game like one shot at a time compared to like trying to beat whoever I'm playing with because that definitely doesn't work in match play.
Yeah. So the reason I like, match play, let's say, you make in stroke play, let's say you make a, big number like an 8 on a hole, in stroke play, it's more difficult to come back from, making an 8 on a hole because let's say it's a par four, then now you're like 4 over. But in match play, you make an 8, you just lose that hole and then, you move on and the next hole is a new hole. So, you know, is that something, um,
Yeah.
that you would agree with? And
Hmm. But it's also like really strategic too. Like,
yeah,
let's say if somebody hits it to like 15 feet or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, like you want to attack the pin, like to get like closer than them, but it's like that like usually never works. If you try to like play too aggressive, you'll probably
Yeah.
like end up making a bogey or whatever, do something stupid instead of like trying to like be like, okay, like I have like 120. Who cares if like where the other person hit it? I'm just trying to hit my best shot. So like I want to like aim like 2 feet right of the pin, play it like 118, whatever, hit your pitching wedge, and then go instead of like trying to like put pressure on yourself to hit within sight, like to hit closer than like your competitor.
Yeah.
It's such a mind game, like
Mhm.
golf. And then the pro level, like it's especially a mental game for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if I asked this, but more about the AJGA. And you growing up playing AJGA. So, just tell me about, how did playing in AJGA tournaments, aid in your development as a junior golfer and just a golfer in general, because AJGA, some of the, bigger junior golf tournaments in the US. So, how did just playing those tournaments, how did that help you develop, as a junior golfer and just as a golfer in general?
Yeah, I feel like playing AJGA was definitely a fun time. Like I probably met most of my golf friends
Yeah.
who now I like am friends with on the like pro level. Um there were like a couple like selective people who like we played on the local like SCPGA tour in Southern Cal
Mhm.
area, and then now like in when we were in AJGA we would hang out together and play in the same events. But like I definitely met a ton of people like from East Coast because I was from West Coast. Like I expanded my social circle playing AJGA,
Yeah.
um, getting like experience to like travel to different states compared to like only playing in California. That was a fun deal. Like I think I played in like Furman's course in South Carolina, like Michigan. We went to Rochester, New York. We played at Pumpkin Ridge in Oregon.
Okay.
Like we definitely traveled a lot within the US. Like I played one in Vermont, like a couple in Arizona. So we
Okay.
definitely like hit a lot of states in AJGA. And then I was able to like figure out like, oh, how good are the people in the invitationals? Like what am I missing from that? So it was a really enjoyable time.
Yeah. And just overall, how was your junior golf, experience and just what was it like, traveling around, playing in tournaments as a junior?
Yeah, I thought it was really fun. Like as a junior, I was very like academic driven.
Okay.
So then I think like in 2015, I was like, I had a good year and then I was like interested in going to USC, Stanford, UCLA, like West Coast stuff. And then for some reason, I think the mental game or I was growing. Like I'm like 5'10" now, but I think in seventh grade, I was like 5'2". So there's a big like growth spurt. So then like that kind of affected stuff. And then I like kind of transitioned into going like I was like, hey, like maybe golf isn't the right thing for me to do. So maybe I'm gonna like try to get into a good school. And my teammates went to Princeton. So I was like, oh, maybe I could try for Ivy Leagues. So
Yeah.
then like my sophomore and junior year, I was really focused on like getting a good academic like SAT score, like getting a good GPA so I can get into like Princeton. I was interested in like that school, Yale and Penn.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I kind of like took like a full year and where I didn't practice at all
Okay.
in my junior year to like get the SATs up. And I even took like the subject tests for the SATs. And I took like probably 8 AP classes in high school. So
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
definitely like trying to go the Ivy League route.
Mhm.
I think like it kind of transitioned where it was like I think I was a junior in high school and then something happened where I was like, hey, maybe I should like consider playing golf like instead of trying to go so academic. So then eventually I was looking at like golf schools in the US to like commit to instead of Ivy Leagues. And then I like switched to USC because they saw a spot open and they were always interested in me. So then I just went back to them. So it was
Yeah.
kind of like a full circle moment because I started out wanting to go to West Coast and then I went to East Coast and then I went back to West Coast.
Mhm. So let's talk more about junior golf. You played junior golf at AJGA. What's some advice you would give to a junior golfer? Like, let's say you were giving advice to junior golfer in their prime of their junior golf career, like ages 11 to 14. And this junior golfer wants to play Division One college golf and maybe professional golf someday. What's some advice you would give to them? Like, what tournaments should they play in? When should they reach out to coaches and just things like that. What's some advice you would give to a junior looking to play Division One golf and professional golf someday?
Yeah, I would say to like really enjoy like the sport. Like if you're 11 or 12, you're not necessarily like going to college like in like 2 years. So there's still like time to like grow your game or like you're still growing too. And I think like mainly just having fun and enjoying like all the trips with your parents, meeting new friends, playing new courses. Like I feel like that's like the biggest takeaway out of that. And instead of like focusing on results, like trying to enjoy the process and to try to like improve your game every single year.
Hmm.
That would be the advice I would give
Yeah.
like
In
11,
turn,
14-year-olds.
yeah. In terms of what tournaments do you think a junior should play? Do you think it's more important for juniors just to like play AJGAs and play in USGA Championships, like playing the biggest tournaments they can, or do you think it's more important for a junior just to play in local, like state tournaments, like junior tour and just have success playing in that? And then in terms of when should a junior reach out to coaches? Like, should a junior reach out to coaches? Should they just have, their coaches
Yeah.
reach out to them? How did that work out for you? And how did the recruiting process work for you? Did you reach out to coaches? And if so, like, what age did
Yeah.
you start reaching out to coaches?
Um, so in terms of like the NCAA rules, it
Mhm.
changed,
Yeah,
but you have to be like a certain age,
yeah,
maybe a junior in high school where you could like really like talk to the coaches and email them directly. There's kind of like a rule where if you're maybe 12, 13, or 14, you're not like old enough yet in school. So usually
mhm,
like coaches reach out to your like technique coach or like send you a questionnaire where you can fill it out so they can get your information.
okay,
Um, but I think I just always played AJGA. Like it was something that I always wanted to do.
yeah,
I don't know like if I knew like oh like if I play AJGA and do well, I'll like get into a better school.
okay,
I don't
mhm,
remember what my process was, but I was just really like devoted to playing AJGA. I
mhm,
would recommend like because it is really expensive to travel to so many different states. But definitely trying to put your name in the USGA like junior amateur qualifier, the women's four ball, like all that stuff is really good exposure to get your name out there.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, there's definitely other ways than only playing AJGA. But I would say like it's a good balance of like maybe playing like your state's amateur open, maybe like your USGA qualifiers near where you live, and then a couple like AJGA events like
yeah.
near your house or like somewhat close to you.
Yeah, I think that's great. Just going out there and playing like AJG is getting your name out there. It's always a great way to get exposure.
Hmm.
So I definitely agree with what you said. So you attended college at USC for undergrad, and then as a grad student you went to South Carolina. But first, what drew you to USC? Obviously, you're from California. So just what drew you to USC, and just how was your time at USC? You played college golf there, and you studied business. So just overall, how was your time at USC?
Oh, it was a fun time.
Mhm.
I graduated in 2022 in May, and I got my degree in business administration, and I got a minor in applied analytics in
Okay,
like part of the
analytics.
engineering school. It was definitely a fun like time. I definitely got a lot of experience because when I got into the school, I think I was like ranked the number four person in my class of 2018, but it was once I got there, it was just a different environment because I was so used to like staying at home, and so now I was like on my own playing with like people like older than me, in a sense. Like being a freshman was kind of like a lot to handle. Um, and yes, I was like good as a junior, but the players on the college team had like a lot of success on the college level. So I was a little bit like intimidated in a sense by them. And I think getting used to the schedule of like waking up really early in the morning to practice,
Yeah.
and playing like a lot with team members was kind of a big challenge for me, especially as a freshman, given like the resumes of the current players on the team.
Yeah. So you said you got an analytics minor, so I want to, ask about that. I think that's pretty interesting. You said it was in the engineering school, so tell me a little bit more about your analytics minor. Like, did you ever take any engineering courses, and do you ever use your analytics minor, like in golf or
Mhm.
anyway?
Yeah, so our head coach, Justin Silverstein at USC, was always very interested in data. So
Okay.
like he got us all into like course management, like Scott Fawcett's decade system for course management. So
Okay.
we would use that for like all of our strategy. And he was very like data oriented for throughout the whole game, like especially putting and speed putting. So I think like hearing from him and like knowing how much of a data guy he was, it kind of like inspired me to like pursue something like in data at school because I had a
Yeah.
lot of AP classes from high school. So then I got like a lot of like electives out, but I was like, hey, if I'm gonna go to like a really good school, like I want to get something that's like worth getting like in terms of a major. And I was like, yeah, data science is like a big thing right now. So then I'll just try to get that. Um, and then it kind of like academically transitioned into South Carolina too. So I'm getting my master's in data and communication. So I'll
Okay.
be getting it in May of this year. Uh, yeah, so like data has been a big part of like how I like think as a person. I'm very analytical. It helps on the golf course because I there's a lot of like shot making strategy, kind of like a chessboard, like what you're going to be playing. And I even like got an internship position at a golf data statistic app called CAFDEX Go.
Mhm.
And now I work for them as like a product ambassador, and I kind of I'm sponsored by them also
Okay.
uh, to like promote them. They're like a data app where you input your 18 hole round and it tells you like where your strengths and weaknesses are. So I'm like a spokesperson for them. And I think like the entire like data background thing has really helped like golf and then my like internship position there.
Yeah. So you mentioned you're getting your master's currently. So tell me a little bit about that. And you mentioned you're going to get your master's in May. So how is it balancing, being a professional golfer, traveling and playing professional golf? Then also, I'm sure you have to do your master's coursework. So just tell me how you
Yeah.
balance, golf and getting your master's.
That was definitely a big challenge because I know like a couple like definitely a lot harder than it would be than like if you only were playing golf as your job. But because I was also getting my master's and I'm working for like the CAFDEX Go company, the golf app, it was really like a lot of like high pressure stuff. So what I would usually do, it would be like I would practice in the morning, go to the gym, and then like if it was off season, there would be like a work meeting that I would attend at 11 where I would like listen to the developers and hear like their say, or I would put out like a potential bug in the app and bring it up and then
Okay.
like help with like the algorithm. So like a lot of stuff that I like did with the app, like the developers put in like to make the app better. And then some of them are my ideas, which was super cool. But it would be like golf practice and then doing work in the gym, like getting my technique down, chipping, putting, like range sessions or whatever. And whatever time I would have left, I would try to like work for the CAFDEX Go company. And then like the tiny amount of time I had left after would go to my master's.
Okay.
So it was definitely like a lot going on with like those three items.
Yeah.
But I would typically like if I had a tournament or something, I would mainly just focus on the tournament and I wouldn't really do that much like work stuff. I kind of like realized that later because at times I was putting more time into like school or like the internship job as like a product ambassador. But I kind of figured it out like more in the LPGAQ schools or like bigger tournaments. I would just take a whole week off work and
Mhm.
just focus on like the tournament only because I didn't want my brain to be focused on something else during like an important tournament. So I'm still trying to figure out like what exactly I'm going to be doing like during the season.
Yeah.
In terms of like work, I have like one class left for my master's. It's like the capstone, like the final class. So if I just pass it, I'll get the master's and I'll be done in like March-ish. So I'll maybe have like two Epson tournaments in by then, and then I'll be done with school. So that's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely sounds exciting. It seems like a lot, but it seems like, you balance it well and, seems like it's all working out. So back to, USC, 2021 was a pretty good, season for you, and your team at USC. In 2021, you won the individual title at the Pac-12 Preview in Hawaii. You won by one stroke, and then your team won regionals that season, by 8 strokes. I believe that was over Stanford. I was looking. So just tell me about, the 2021 season. What was it like to win individually, in Hawaii, and then what was it like for your team to win regionals by 8 strokes?
Yeah, definitely the whole deal my senior year was a really fun ride.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really like play in the lineup like my first year, second year, like third year I played in like some,
Okay.
but like my senior year was like the first year where I was able to play in like every tournament. And I felt like I really like went a long way because like my first year I didn't really play that much, and then my sophomore year COVID hit, so everything was shut down. So it was like a big challenge. Like, some people were like, "Oh, like maybe you should transfer or like whatever. Like, are you gonna stay for 4 years? What's the deal?" But then I like sucked it up and just like put my head down and just tried to like keep getting better and to see like the results hit like that summer before senior year and then senior year to win a tournament. It felt like a really big deal. Like especially going from someone who was like never traveling on like the 5 people lineup, like my first couple years to winning a tournament and getting to Augusta, I felt like that was a really big flex to have, especially like going through like the challenges that I went through my first few years to like figure out what worked on the team or like getting my mental game right to not get intimidated by who I'm playing with versus like playing my own game. So
Yeah.
that was a fun ride.
Yeah, definitely fun. It was great, especially to, have a very good and successful, senior year. That was great. So you mentioned, you played in the 2022 Augusta National Women's Amateur, at Augusta National. So just tell me about, what was it like to play in that tournament in 2022, and what do you think that tournament means, for women's golf and, particularly women's amateur golf?
Yeah, so because I won the tournament in Hawaii, it moved me up like to get into the Augusta tournament. So I was
Okay.
like thrilled. Like I think I didn't even realize that I would have had a chance to play it, but like the fact that I got in, it was such a big deal. The whole thing with Augusta National not allowing women to play on the course to having the entire women's tournament at Augusta for all the best amateurs in the world, I feel like is a really big step up for women's golf.
Mhm.
Like the publicity on national TV that it has, all of like the really top players like Annika Sorenstam, Nancy Lopez, a lot of the big legends from the LPGA who would like go and try to be there and watch the players. I think that's just such a really, really good way to give back. Um, yeah, that tournament is probably one of the definitely the best tournament in amateur golf, but
Yeah.
to have that tournament at Augusta National where they play the Masters is such a good thing for women's golf.
Yeah. And I believe I was checking, you didn't make the cut. You played the first few rounds of Champions Retreat, but you did get to play a practice round at Augusta National, so I'm sure that was probably pretty cool for you just to get to, play the course once?
Yeah, because I think growing up in California, it was like kind of my first time actually playing in Bermuda.
Okay.
And it was really cold that week when we played it. So it was like the grass was really challenging for me to chip off of. And like even in the fairway, I had trouble making like a good ball strike also. Um, but it was definitely a fun experience, like playing Augusta for the practice round. I think given the conditions like that particular year, um, a couple of my friends and I were saying like Augusta National played easier just because of how good the conditions were everywhere on the course compared to Champions Retreat, given how cold it was. Um, yeah, but that particular year we felt like Augusta was like, I guess, the more fun course to be playing,
Yeah.
given like how tough Champions Retreat was.
Yeah, and you talked about, playing in the cold. Obviously, you're from California, so I'm sure you don't experience a lot of cold, especially now you live in Florida. But just tell me, if you do play in cold weather, just how is that for you and how do you navigate, playing in cold or, difficult conditions?
Yeah, it's definitely a big point to bring enough clothes.
Yeah.
Um, like I typically try to layer a lot.
Hmm.
I rather have more clothes than fewer clothes, but it is a balance to like if you wear too many clothes, then you can't really swing.
Okay.
But I think like in between shots, if it's really cold, to do like jumping jacks or walk around or try to get your hands warm with hand warmers or just something like that can be really helpful.
Yeah. And finally about USC, you were obviously college teammates with Allison Corpuz. She, has had a lot of success on the LPGA Tour. Won a US Open at Pebble Beach, I believe. Played on the Solheim Cup. So just what was it like to, be with teammates with Allison, and get to see her success on the LPGA Tour?
Yeah, there's no one I'm more proud of than Allison. So like I felt like she was my big sister on the team. Like because she was 2 years older than me, and then as a freshman I was like I didn't really know like how to handle everything, so I would always ask her questions like how do you like balance school and then play golf like so well and stuff,
Yeah.
because for me it was such a big transition, so I would ask her for like a ton of advice. I really enjoyed playing with her like whenever I could. um, and just seeing her like win the US Open, yeah, I was like screaming. I was calling like her best friend Aiko, and then we were like crying, just like watching her win by three, walking down the last hole on Pebble Beach. That was just like an unbelievable experience. She's always been such a good ball striker. So then when I we met for like a dinner in LA somewhere with her mom, and then one of our friends, Julie. So it was just the four of us with her mom. And I was telling her like, yeah, like the way you played on TV was just like how you played in college at Trump, like shooting like five, 600. Like it felt like there was just no difference. It was just you like going in the fairway on the green, making putts. Like it was such a cool thing to watch. I'm
Yeah.
so proud of her. I went
Yeah.
to watch her a couple times in Florida, when she played the Pelican and CME. But yeah, I'm just always like rooting for her every step of the way.
Yeah, getting advice from Allison and just being college teammates, that's, pretty cool. Um, so then after USC, you went to another USC, University of South Carolina. You went there for, a fifth year. Obviously you're getting your master's, which we talked about, but just what drew you to South Carolina for your fifth year? And just how was your time at South Carolina?
Yeah, I thought I had a blast at South Carolina. So when it came to like once my fourth year was done, like yes, it was a really solid senior year. Like the best I played like in college. But I was like talking to Justin, like the head coach at USC about it, and I was like honestly, what do you think? Like, what should I like turn pro right now? Should I do a fifth year? But his advice was like, since I didn't really play like a full season, like I didn't play every single year in college. He was like, yeah, you should maybe consider doing a fifth year somewhere to get some more experience to prep
Yeah.
for like the pro level. So then I put my name in the transfer portal. I would have stayed in USC, but I think given like uh current and like new players who are coming on the team. All the scholarships were already distributed. So
Okay.
I was like, okay, I'll just put my name in the portal to see like if there's any good schools that come up. So it was, I think Oregon, San Jose State, Oklahoma State, and South Carolina were in the mix. I was kind of like really debating between like Oregon and South Carolina,
Mhm.
but I think like I kind of wanted to get out of the as like it was Pac-12 back then. And I felt like South Carolina, even though it was far away, it was a good experience for me to like play in the SEC and experience something like totally different than what I was used to. Because I was in California for like 22 years. So to me, it was like, okay, I have 1 year, like I could do whatever I want. I could like play somewhere like, and it's only going to be a year thing. So then I just picked South Carolina. I really loved the facilities. Kaylin, the coach, was super cool. Um, I love the golf courses, the team. They're all from Europe, but I thought it was a whole like cool experience to be playing with them and stuff.
Yeah. I know South Carolina they play at least they host a tournament at Old Barnwell. Is that their home course or what's the home course for South Carolina?
So, South Carolina is based in Columbia,
Yeah.
which is like the capital of the state.
Mhm.
It's
Okay.
like in the middle, like exactly in the middle of the state almost.
Okay.
But Old Barnwell is like 30 minutes or so from Augusta. So
Okay.
it's more in like the really, really west part of South Carolina.
Okay.
It's like an hour-ish from Columbia. Um, but yeah, I saw they're hosting regionals. I don't know if it's this year or next year, and they're also hosting a match play tournament at Old Barnwell, which is it's so cool there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's not the home course.
No.
South Carolina just hosts tournaments there.
Hmm.
Okay. Cool. And you mentioned, going from California, you attended USC, you lived there for 22 years. Then you went to South Carolina, to play college golf for a fifth year. So just how was the transition for you, going from, California to attending South Carolina and, South Carolina, just how was the transition for you and how did you, navigate it?
Yeah, I got like asked that like so many times, like,
Yeah.
oh, like you went from USC to USC, which one's better? Like, which one's the real USC? Um, but I think because I always lived in LA, like USC is always going to be like
Yeah.
Southern Cal in my
Mhm.
heart because I'm just from there. But like USC South Carolina was formed first,
Okay.
like it was founded
Mhm.
earlier. Um, but it was the fifth year was super fun. We went to Pine Valley on a trip, played at Seminole. We went to the Bahamas and played at the Hero World Challenge course that Tiger Woods hosts the tournament.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
we went to so many cool destinations. But I felt like I was almost a freshman again my fifth year because I was like a newbie at like a
Yeah.
new place.
Yeah.
And even like people would ask like, "Oh, what's the difference between USC and USC?" I think like to me it was like the location. Because you have LA, it's so diverse. There's so much like food you could eat, like you could do whatever you want. But in South Carolina, I felt like because there were people in the South, it was a whole different thing for me. Um, but I truly like had a good time and I made friends from like Europe. I met new friends at school. I pretty much like had to create my like new friend group from scratch kind of.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a challenge, but I got along really well with the team and made some like friends outside of golf who I still like keep in contact sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a fun experience for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure for you being, you went to South Carolina. I believe this past year the women's basketball team won the national championship, and they have
Yeah.
one of the best women's basketball teams. So I'm sure that was, pretty cool for you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually like never had a chance to watch the women's basketball team, but we live
Okay.
like close. I may try to go watch them when I go over there to get my master's. I'll
Okay.
try to like definitely like get a ticket to see them
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. So in 2023, you won the Monday qualifier for the LPGA Ascendant in Dallas, and you finished in seventh place. So just, tell me about, that tournament. What was it like to play in an LPGA tournament? Finished seventh place, and just how was your experience in that tournament?
Yeah, that was definitely like once in a lifetime experience. Especially like winning the Monday qualifier. So like I played a WAPT event the week before. I think I got like top five in that one. Then I just signed up for the qualifier, but it was like a really tough time for me because I didn't make the cut to go to stage two for the LPGAQ school. So I was kind of like trying to figure out like what am I gonna do for next year since I didn't advance. So I just played the qualifier and the caddy that I got he ended up being really good and we really fit together. I never so his name is Glenn Hinton, and he ended up caddying for me for the first time in the qualifier, and then I ended up winning it. So it was like, hey, like we worked well. Like you're gonna be caddying in the real tournament too. Um, but that was such a cool deal. I was using my like old Barnwell bag from the program that I'm in South Carolina, and then I saw like all of the pros using like the really big staff bags. Felt like kind of intimidated, like, oh wow, that's Charlie Hull, like Leona McGuire, Lexi Thompson,
Yeah,
a lot of like big name people. I was like, whoa, like kind of like that kind of experience because I
yeah,
never like that was the first time I qualified for an LPGA event. I think I played with Christina Kim in a practice round
okay,
and she gave me advice to like just play golf. Like golf is just golf. Like it doesn't make a difference if you're just playing like with your friends or like in this tournament. She just I think that was like her advice that I kind of stuck to the whole week. And a lot of like LPGA caddies and players were saying to just enjoy the whole tournament.
yeah,
Um yeah, so I just really tried to like focus on like staying in the present and really being grateful for the opportunity. And then I moved up to seventh place, which was like really cool.
yeah. It was really cool and great experience. We mentioned it being a once in a lifetime experience. Hopefully it's not a once in a lifetime experience. Hopefully
Hmm.
2026 you're on the LPGA tour, and
Yeah.
maybe even get a win sometime in your career on the LPGA tour. That would be cool and hopefully
Hmm.
the goal. So, hopefully you can up that seventh place finish and maybe someday win on
Yeah.
the LPGA tour.
That's
That'd be
definitely a
cool.
really big goal for me.
But yeah, anyway, you're part of the Annika development program. Can you tell me a little bit about this program? How you found out about the program and just what does it mean to be part of this program? This program, has Annika's name associated with it. So can you just tell me what does it mean to be part of this program?
Yeah, so I think it was like my spring semester at school where Coach Kalen from South Carolina sent me an email of something, and it was like Annika's foundation is partnering with the golf course in Old Barnwell, and they're having like an ambassador class.
Yeah,
And it was just really, it just caught my eye, and it had like qualifications because it was the inaugural class where it was like you had to have either been living in North Carolina, South Carolina, or Georgia, or have been like a college graduate from the schools. So I qualified because I was a graduate of South Carolina by the
okay,
time like I
mhm,
would be in the program. It just like so happened that I happened to go to a school in South Carolina and the program just opened. Um, but t the whole interview process was pretty intense. I really like tried to work hard on my resume, but the whole deal with like Annika's foundation and everything that she does to give back to the women's game, like all of the tournaments that she travels to, she goes to the Augusta event every year. She has clinics in Korea. She has like the Annika tournament in Sweden, Florida, South America, Asia. So all that work that she does to build the game is just like unbelievable. All the effort that she puts into host clinics, to be there to talk to the kids, all of that stuff to grow the women's game. I feel like she's definitely made a huge impact on inspiring more girls to like pick up golf. Um, and
Yep.
just to be a part of that at Old Barnwell, it really matches with her values too. Because Old Barnwell is a club where they really support women in the Annika Foundation Ambassador Program, and they really like try to do a lot of activities with kids. They recently just opened up a 15-hole kids course. So they definitely like give back. Eventually, with the program, Annika is going to have clinics at Old Barnwell also and engage with the kids there. So it's just another base for her and her foundation to be in.
Yeah. So I see in 2024, at the Hilton Grand Vacations, Annika Invitational, you got to participate in a Q&A session with Annika. So just what was that like, participating, in the Q&A session with Annika?
I was really nervous the whole time because I was sitting next to like the greatest of all time and
Yeah.
talking. But because the tournament that Annika hosted for the juniors was like in Orlando. It was probably a 2 hours drive from me, and I had a tournament like nearby, like in Orlando. Originally, I was just trying to just volunteer. Like I was telling Rob Ono, the CEO of the foundation, like, hey, like I'm gonna be in Orlando playing a tournament. Like I have an extra day where I could like maybe volunteer for the clinic. Like, is there anything like I could do to help? But it turns out like that particular day it was raining. So they moved the clinic to like they canceled the outdoor clinic and moved it inside. They're like, "Oh, do you want to talk on stage with Annika?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course, I would love to." But that was definitely not something that was originally planned. It was more of like the weather delay made that happen, but to just be on stage with a mic with Annika, I felt like I learned a lot also in engaging with the kids.
Yeah, that's great. So you turned pro in 2023. Just what was it like when you turned pro in, 2023? And you played on the LAT, to start your professional career. So just, what drew you to play on the LAT? So just tell me about the start of your pro career and just, what drew you to start your career on the LAT.
Yeah. So I turned pro in May, I think late May of 2023, like pretty much the
Okay.
week after I graduated from college, like the week after the NCAA nationals were finished. Um, I played a few of the WAPT, now part of the Annika Tour.
Yeah.
She took over the title, but
Mhm.
I played some of those and just to get experience for like 4 day events because all of them are 4 days. And the LPGA school is like stage one, and all the stages are at least 4 days. So I wanted to play that to get like experience because in college you only play in 3 days. It's pretty rare for like a 4 day event. So I did that for some experience. And then I think because I like missed out on stage one and didn't advance to
Mhm.
stage two, it was kind of like I said before, like what am I going to be doing like next year? Like what am I going to play?
Mhm.
Um, but I definitely think that if I advance to the stage two in 2023, I probably wouldn't have played in the Monday qualifier for Texas just because of it was like getting really close to that tournament date for stage two. So I probably would have just been prepping in Florida.
Yeah.
So that like really worked out nice to actually get in the tournament and make the cut to get top 10. But LET was an option because I was like, hey, like I have an option to play LET to see how well I do in the Q school to maybe get some status.
Mhm.
So that's what I ended up doing. I went to Morocco and advanced to the final stage. I missed by a couple shots to like get I guess the full membership. But I did get into like most of the events. Um, yeah, that was my first full year on the tour. I felt like it was such a big deal for me to be playing like week after week. Um, I learned a lot about how important fitness is on the road. Um, And I think just getting experience, like traveling, like getting your course set up, it just felt a lot different than playing in the US because of the time change. I
Mhm.
think that was something that I would have maybe done differently. Um, like maybe get there a couple days earlier to get used to the time change because sometimes like the 6 hour difference would be a lot. Um, but yeah, it was a fun time. Like all of the destinations that we went to, like Korea, South Africa, Italy, Czech Republic, Ireland, Spain. Like I was just so grateful to be able to play in such beautiful places.
Yeah, just overall, just how was your experience last year playing on the Ladies European Tour, and just what did you learn about your game from playing on the LAT?
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot. It was a bit
Mhm.
challenging just because of the travel, because I was based in Florida, so I was like constantly going to like Europe and then coming back, going there. Um, but like I had my mom caddy for me and we really bonded and it was a fun time. Um, like playing on the LET and getting the 3 and 4 days of tournament play in was really cool. I really learned about like stamina and endurance in the tournaments, and I felt like some of my friends that I met on the tour who were more like fit ended up playing better over time
Yeah.
because of like how intensive it would be to go from like
Mhm.
one tournament to the next. So I kind of treated that as like an experience of how I'm going to deal with like another year of life on tour for this year.
Mhm. Yeah. So you recently, this past year, advanced past stage one of LPGA Q Series. You earned, Epson Tour status for this upcoming year. Just what did it mean to, advance past stage one, earn Epson Tour status, and just how was your experience, playing in LPGA Q Series?
Yeah, I thought it was a very intensive
Mhm.
experience. Just because it's like, oh, it's 1 week, 2 weeks, and that's kind of like your status for the whole year or whatever. There's a lot of pressure with the Q school and stuff going on, but I think mindset is such a big key to like play well in that one and of course any other tournament. But I think like my mindset that week was like just play like I would play in if it was like with my friends or like not even Q school, like how I would deal with a regular tournament instead of getting caught up in like the results of like placing in the tournament.
Yeah. So you're going to be playing on the Epson Tour this, upcoming year. Just what do you look forward to most about getting to play on the Epson Tour this year?
Yeah, I'm excited to like go through that like week after week thing again. I was looking at the schedule. There's going to be a couple tournaments 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row. But what's good is that I'll be able to like have a home base in Florida and South Carolina if I wanted to go play at Old Barnwell and use the facilities there. Um, but it's going to be a lot more convenient for me at least compared to like the European tour where I had to like fly back to Florida and then fly there.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm excited. I have like the caddy that I used in the LPGA qualifier in the tournament. He lives in Texas, so he'll be able to like caddy for me for the whole year.
That's
So
good.
it's going to be like really exciting to actually have like a pro caddy to carry the bag um, for each event. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, having a pro caddy. So now, on the Epson Tour, at least at our tournament, some players are, carrying their own bag, pushing your own cart, but for you having your own caddy, so, that'll be great.
Yeah.
So just
Mhm.
a few more questions I want to ask. In your pro career so far, have you made any friends, since the start of your professional career, and what do you think it'll be like, this year on the Epson Tour to reconnect, with some friends and some college teammates? Because I know, like, at least this past year, Mari Avery, he played with for a
Yeah.
year at USC. She was on the Epson
It
Tour.
was
So
fun.
just what
Hmm.
will it be like to, reconnect with some friends on the Epson Tour?
Yeah. Because I feel like I definitely made a couple friends from the LET because it's more of like a European based tour, international tour. Like there's players from Thailand, um, mostly Europe. And I was like one of the only US players. I think it was me and two other players who were from the US who competed on the team. And I
Mm,
think too, like just getting that experience and playing with people from Europe and figuring out like what worked for them on the road, and then going back to the US and playing more with like my friends from college from the US. It's gonna be like a fun time for sure
yeah.
to
Um,
reconnect with them.
yeah, that'll be great. So finally, Catherine, just how has your professional career been so far? What has it been like since you turned pro, and just what have you learned, about your game and just about yourself since you turned pro?
Yeah, I think I definitely learned a lot about myself and how I handle challenges, like what works well on the road, what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing, in tournament play, how I should be practicing off season versus tournament play. I spoke a lot with players on the LET who like had LPGA status and now we're doing LET, and
Yeah,
they were playing for like over 10 years as a pro. And it was just really cool to hear their insight on like their life on tour. And to me, it was like really inspirational to hear from them about like their time playing on tours for so many years. Um, and I definitely learned a lot from all the people I connected with on the LAT for
yeah.
sure.